the sack. And it was easy to find the guy. He was wide open, but he almost didn't get the throw off. That would have been our only chance to save it. And I didn't even know that because, like I say, when there's a pass, I look in the secondary to see what the coverage is like. Mm-hmm. And we had 3 guys on one guy. And the guy that ran the wheel route, which they run a ton of wheel routes, we just turned them loose. Mm-hmm. And Badge had found him because he buys time. You know, the one touchdown, I think he had the ball for 7 seconds. He made 2 guys miss. You know, he's kind of like McCavish back in the old days in regards to trying to sack him. But then he's like a pro-style quarterback when he throws it. You know, he's athletic. He's big. A lot of people don't realize how big he is. He's only about 6'2", but he's put together, and he's got a really big lower base. And, you know, then, it was 7-7 going into the second quarter. We had a drive going. We got a penalty. We were going into the wind. We went for it because we were on the 32. It was 4th and 12, and I figured there's no way we can kick a field goal into the wind. There's no way. If we punt and we punted out of the end zone, we only gained 12 yards. So we were into the wind, and I was like, you know, we're not going to get much out of a punt. So we went for it, and he had a little bit of pressure, Mac, and he tried to run it, and we didn't make the first down. I thought he might have had a chance. We had a post coming into the end zone, actually, a deep post that might have had a shot, but he kind of got off his mark because of a little bit of pressure. And they were playing hard on defense. They came to play this. You know, we had our way with them the first game. We blocked them. We protected the quarterback. You know, we had our way with them the first time, but defensively they came to play Saturday, and we had, from that point on, we had problems in the run game, and they did a good job in coverage.
At what point maybe did the guys realize that, hey, this team is a lot more physical than they were first time around?
Yeah, it was a different team. I know this sounds crazy, but I equate it to like Gannon did us a favor by beating us. And then we kind of got our edge back and were humbled a little bit.
Because they were very physical.
And we beat Shepherd the first time. Unfortunately, I think we did Shepherd a favor by beating them because they were a totally different team that came in 3 weeks later. I mean, it was night and day difference to me early in the game. After they scored and tied it at 7-7, we hadn't had a problem physicality-wise really with anybody we've played all year. And we were getting beat up pretty good up front on both sides of the ball. We were struggling running it. Obviously, we didn't have DeJour, who had a really good first quarter against them the first time we played them. Just we weren't getting a lot of movement. They were doing some good things defensively up front. They were very physical. They challenged our receivers in the pass game. And then, you know, we knew they'd come in and try to run the ball because they didn't run it the first time. And they had been running for over 200 yards in their first 2 playoff games. And they ran the ball a lot better than we thought I mean, we knew they would try. I thought we would stop the run a little bit better, but Ronnie Brown's a pretty good runner. And, you know, when they had the wind, they had, you know, the second and third quarter, they could throw it because Badgett, and they were running the ball, so you know, you had to stop both. At least when they were in the wind, we concentrated more on stopping the run because it was hard throwing the ball into the wind, even for Badgett. I mean, even the touchdown pass he threw in the first quarter, it wasn't a great pass. And then the other one that the tight end had, and then he dropped, and Jaheim Hyatt hit him, that wasn't a great throw either because it was really hard. If you put any air on the ball into the wind, it wasn't easy to throw it. I mean, Mac threw a couple balls into the wind that didn't even spiral, you know. So it caught us, but then, you know, it was 21-7. I thought we could get out of the first half 14-7, and they got a late touchdown that hurt. And that was after, I believe, their second touchdown was after a 5-yard punt into the wind. And
yeah, that was the yes. I
so they were up 21-7, but at the end of the day, when you look at it, they scored 28 points and only had 95 yards. They had a pick six for a touchdown. They had a 21-yard drive when the snap was high for our punter and he had to recover it. They had a 30-yard drive on our fumble. I think that's where we were in trouble.
Well, that was the beginning of the quarter.
In the beginning of the third quarter, we had a good play on first down on a misdirection pass to Suman. We were 1st and 10 on like the 32, and we fumbled the next play. And they had a 30-yard drive there. And, so when you give them the ball, and in the first half, after the bad punt, they got the ball on the 44-yard line. So they had a 30-yard drive, a 44-yard drive, a 21-yard drive, and then a pick six. So that's 28 points, and they only had to gain 95 yards. That's like, for them, gaining 95 yards is nothing. And when they gain 95 yards and score 28 points, I mean, the bottom line is in the play-by-play, it'll look like 3 turnovers, but it was really 4 because when you fumble the snap on the punt, they got the ball on our 21-yard line. So that's a turnover.
That's a turnover.
So they had, our first game, they had 2 turnovers. We didn't have any. We could have had 3 or 4 more, but we dropped interceptions in the first game. Saturday, they didn't come close to turning the ball over. And, I mean, they didn't even fumble the ball and recover it. They were clean the whole game. They obviously no interceptions, no fumbles. And we technically had 4 turnovers that led to 21 points, and then the bad punt led to 7 points. So they really had a big play. They really only had 2 drives because they didn't have to drive. I'm not saying they wouldn't have, but they were getting the ball on our side of the 50 the whole first 3 quarters. And in the 1/3 quarter, they had the wind again. Now, I think he did Shepard's coach did a really smart thing, and I was worried he was going to do it. When we came out to start the 3rd quarter, I knew we were getting the ball. And I was hoping he would take the win for the 4th quarter and give us the win for the 3rd quarter so we'd have a chance to get back in the game. And usually we take the win in the 3rd quarter when it's our choice. I usually don't wait till the 4th quarter for a win. I want it right there in the 3rd quarter and kind of set the tempo.
So some coaches go the other way.
Yeah, Ashland did. The wind was nowhere near as bad against Ashland. But when we came out to start the second half, we were getting the ball. And I was shocked that Ashland was kind of kicking into the wind for the 3rd quarter because they were saving it for the 4th quarter. Ernie, he came out and took the win in the 3rd quarter to put us away. And I thought that was really smart. We do it all the time. But, they just never let us back into the game. And, we made 3 plays in the first 2.5 quarters that got called back for penalties that were big plays. We hit a seam route for a 40-yard gain with Ridley. We got called for hands to the face, and it was. Then we had a run down there before we had to go for it. We had a run it was a first down. We had a penalty. It was 1st and 20. That's when we ended up having to go for it on 4th and 12. But Ridley got called for a clip because their guy triggered in the alley and made a great play and made our guy clip him like we were supposed to crack him, and he just made a great play. So we had that penalty. That killed that drive. And then the little dump pass to Hauser that went for 45 yards because Mack just bought time and nobody was on Hauser. We got a penalty downfield on Dwayne Brown for holding. So that 45-yard gain ended up being, we still got the first down, but we only gained 15 yards. So when you throw that into it, plus the 2 turnovers right there to start the second half, I mean, we were fighting an uphill battle
the whole way. Yeah, what do you say as a coach when you were down by what the score was, and then you knew you were getting the ball, but you said the fumble just turned everything.
Yeah,
so you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah, we haven't been behind a whole lot all year. Mm-hmm. We have never been behind by more than 10 points all year. For a little bit against Cal, we had never been behind more than 1 score all year. So it was a little, our guys were a little perplexed that we were losing 21-7 at halftime because we hadn't been behind like that the whole year. So we said, hey, look, it was a bad 2nd quarter. They're a good team. We're getting the ball to start the second half. Let's put a drive together like we did the first time we played them. We had a 92-yard drive on our first series of the second half the first time we played Shepherd. And we had the ball on our own 15, so we had to go 85 yards, and we had a great first play, but then we fumbled the next play. Then the next series, we got the first down, but we got the penalty, and it got us backed up, and then we, muffed the snap. It was a high snap. Yeah, the punter may have been able to get it. It just wasn't a great snap, and he didn't do a great job fielding the snap. And now they get the ball on the 21-yard line. And then we had a chance there. That was probably the killer. It was 28-7. We had them 4th and 8. They elected to not kick the field goal, which would have been easy because they had to win. And that's the play where he bought I think it took 7 seconds. He just bought time. He made 2 guys miss on sacks, and he hit Ronnie Brown in the end zone to make it 35-7. We stopped him there. We still have a shot. We're 28-7. Plus, we're getting the ball in the fourth quarter. Our goal was to get to the fourth quarter. When we saw that they took the wind in the third quarter, our goal was to get to within 1 score in the fourth quarter when we were going to have the wind.
Entering the fourth quarter.
It never came close to that.
Yeah, never got a chance.
Right.
I have a question here. We have some from the fans, and one of them was, what was the difference between your secondary in the PSAC championship and the regional championship?
Well, I think that Badgett was on. He made some mistakes. I don't know how many interceptions he's thrown all year, but realistically, he could have threw 5 interceptions in our first game. We literally dropped 3 interceptions, and we had 2.
I remember.
And the weather was bad. The wind was bad Saturday, and the first time we played them, the rain was bad. So, but they were throwing the ball every play the first game. So we were in much better position to stop them throwing when we weren't worrying about the run. Saturday, when they got the run going, which we knew they would because they did it in their first 2 playoff games, now you can't play the pass like you really wanted to, like we did in the first game. So if I had to give a blanket answer, we blew a coverage that cost us a touch. When we played them the first time, we only gave up 2 passes over 20 yards. And on the second series of the game, we gave up a 70-yard touchdown pass. But if I had to answer it defensively, we couldn't play the pass like we did the first time we played them because they were running the ball the second time, and we had to stop the run too. And we couldn't because literally in the first game they only ran the ball 8 times, and we just played the pass just about every play in the first game. And we had the lead.
And you had
that was that made, the crazy thing about it is, we lose by a big score Saturday. We're the same team, and they're the same team that we were beating 24-7 with 10 minutes to go in the game the first time we played them. So football's a funny game that way. I mean, they're a good team. They were a different team when they came to play us. They played great. We played terrible. I didn't do a very good job. We didn't coach very good. They did. But, losing by that score wasn't something that we would think in a million years would happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking nothing away from them. I just thought we would play better. They played great.
It was like the tale of 2 different games.
Absolutely.
Because the way you guys played in the first game, it's error-free. And a couple of other questions coming up we'll get to you in a moment. And we're with Coach Paul Tortorella. We're talking about Saturday's game. We're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about the present, the transfer portal. That's another thing to talk about. We're coming to you live. It's Hawk Talk from the beautiful Hilton Garden Inn. Back in a moment, U92radio.com, also on U92 Facebook page.
C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn is this area's best-kept secret. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hour, or for their post-game specials. Make your reservations for C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn at chfields.com. The Hilton Garden Inn is the preferred hotel of IUP Athletics. Located next to Miller Stadium and the KCAC, the Hilton Garden Inn is Indiana's newest and best hotel. Make your reservations today at hiltongardenin.com.
Come join us in celebrating our grandfather Red Dowd's induction into the Indiana County Business Hall of Fame.
To celebrate, we can't think of anything better than to combine 2 of Dowd's most popular sales.
To honor his legacy and celebrate our 72nd anniversary, we're offering up to 72% off selected floor sample clearance items. Plus, save on all custom orders with every other item up to 1/2 off.
Come celebrate with us, Dowd's of Plumville and Dowd's of Greensburg.
We're back with you live. This is Jack Benedict with Coach Paul Tortorella, Hawk Talk. This is our final show of the season, and we're talking about Saturday's game. We're talking about the future. We're talking about the present, so stay with us. I also have other people helping us out as we normally do. This is not a one-man show, that's for sure. Questions for the coach. Mark Burdig is over there, and he's got some questions, not of his, but some of the fans. Mark?
I might. Just give me a minute.
Sure.
All right, so some of the regulars that have been with us practically each and every week, we appreciate their support of our Hawk Talk program, and Coach, I know you do too. So you ready for some tough questions?
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right,
give them some airtime.
All right, our first guest, your name.
Ron Thomas. Coach, first of all, congratulations on another successful season. I love IUP football and basketball, and I'm disappointed like everybody on the last game. But my question is, we're losing some important players.
Right.
Our 2 defensive tackles, we lose some offensive linemen.
Right.
I wonder, what positions do you think are the most important ones for you to replace?
You just hit it right on the head. Linemen, offensive line, defensive line. We've had a lot of linemen play for us that are graduating. A lot of defensive linemen that have played for us for every year it's different. We had all those guys back last year, and we needed other positions. But the blanket statement right now would be offensive line and defensive line to start with, and then build it around there. We're in pretty good shape secondary-wise. We got 11 defensive backs that will be back, that dressed for, traveled with us. They're all back. We lose 1 linebacker, but we do lose 4 defensive linemen, and we lose 3 offensive linemen. So that's where it would start. A couple wide outs. So it's a jigsaw puzzle. But right now everybody, and I said it to the staff today, everybody's woe is me because we're losing some good players. But that happens every year, and everybody they can't play for you forever. So. But O-line and D-line would be the 2 spots we're definitely honing in on.
All right, we'll move down the line. Your name?
Yeah, Randy from Indiana.
Randy, what question do you have for the coach or the legendary broadcaster?
I sit there at the at Miller Stadium. I noticed probably about 15 or 20 players with just their jerseys on. I guess that's your red shirt group.
Right.
Can you talk about them as a group, with their talent, and maybe some specifics where guys can get bigger and faster and stronger?
Yeah, we have we brought in 31 freshmen, and we only played, the specialists, there's a couple specialists, we only played 26 of the 31. There's a lot of skill players that are, there's a wideout that when Dwayne got hurt, and we lost Lockhart early in the year, a kid by the name of Omar Stewart, whose dad played for us here. About the 7th, 8th week of the season, we were almost going to pull his red shirt and play him. So he's a guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys. We played a couple true freshman defensive backs that would have been red shirted, and we've got. We recruited a whole defense last recruiting season out of those 31. So there's a couple down guys. There's defensive ends. There's linebackers. 2 of the defensive backs actually dressed and played, but there are 2 others that didn't play that got red-shirted. We don't have as many offensive guys. We'll recruit more offensive players this year because we lose more offensive players. But, we've got a pretty good group. We've got a couple offensive linemen and a tight end that we recruited that got hurt before he came to camp, that finally got healthy and practiced later in the year with us. Kid by the name of Aiden Johnson, who we're looking to see this spring to see what he's going to do. So, but the brunt of our guys leaving are O-line, tight end, and wide receiver. Running backs, we got them all back. Defensive backs, we got them all back. Linebackers, we just lose 1 linebacker. But the defensive line position, we're getting hit pretty good.
All right.
Go ahead, Mark. Got another one?
All right. He's the head cheerleader for Hawk Talk, this guy. Your name?
Jack Frank. Coach, congratulations. One of the best records, one of the best seasons in IUP football history. And if Shepherd wins the national championship, we could say we're the only team that beat them.
Yeah.
It's the IUP beat them.
Right.
But one thought, I was wondering how we can honor our seniors a little bit. Some of them have been here longer than anybody in history.
Well, we started something today that we haven't done. We gave them their game jerseys. So that's one thing we've done that we've never done with any senior group. we gave them their game jerseys. We don't normally do that. So that was one thing that we wanted to do for this group, because there's some of them been here 6 years.
Yes, that's a record in IUP history.
Right.
And maybe next year we could bring back football alumni and have band alumni also.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a big deal this year.
Yeah, we you know, if you look at during the season, our crowds and the band alumni and football alums and Hall of Fame and homecoming, and you know, we had something kind of going every home game. Our crowds were outstanding. So, yeah.
I have two for the coach, Jack, because
Sure.
you know I can't stop at one.
Oh, no, go ahead. Well, that's nothing new.
Pat Doherty on the postgame show certainly didn't take the fans that were there to task, but took the fans that were not there to task a little bit. You look at some of the attendance at the other semifinal games. Grand Valley State had 13,001, and the other two around 5,000. I think the attendance was, Jack, 1235, something along those
somewhere in
lines.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little different approach. The facilities, they are so antiquated. I heard Todd Garzarelli on Jack's pregame show talking about a 5-year plan. Nothing against Todd, but I heard about a 5-year plan prior to Todd getting here, maybe 10 years ago. Nothing has changed at Miller Stadium. Of course, the Kowalczyk complex, the atmosphere can be fabulous with a big crowd. Do facilities hamper maybe people wanting to come to the game because you're in a facility that's not that great?
I mean, it might, you know, but if people really want to come, they're going to come. You know, weather sometimes can play a factor in it. It was pretty bad there in pregame warm-up. A couple of officials came over and said we might have to delay the game at the beginning with how the weather was in pregame warm-up, and then the sun came out and it was just windy as all heck. But I mean, I mean, it may play a role in it, but I think weather plays more of a role in it than anything. And I think Thanksgiving the weekend before probably played a role in it that kept the crowd down. But usually it's bad weather, you know. And then you know, I mean, we're just responsible by playing on the field. Like that's our goal, to do the best we can on the field. We're not marketing directors. We're not in charge of, you know, marketing and getting attendance and all that. So, you know, I'm kind of one of those guys that it's like I let the experts do. Like sometimes I've got coaches that are experts at certain things and I don't bother them. I say, you're the expert at this. You handle it. And so that we just got to worry about the product on the field. And if the fans come, great. If they don't, then that's their prerogative.
My final question would be, speaking of the product on the field, which was excellent, and I too congratulate you and your staff members and the team. But from a depth standpoint, I'm not sure where you are with scholarship equivalencies, but if it's in the 24 to 26 range, which is what I've been told, can IUP compete on the national stage as far as winning a national title when you don't have 36 equivalencies?
Well, here's the best way to explain it. You know, we have here's our goals. Our goals are to win the PSAC West. We did that. Next goal is to win the PSAC Conference. We did that. The next goal, which is a tough one, is win the region. We obviously failed at that. Didn't get that done. But if you do win the region, you're going to go play teams that are fully funded, okay? And however you want to dice it up, you're going to play teams that probably we have maybe 66% of the scholarships that they have. I mean, I'm a realist, and we talked at great length today as a staff. You know, it compares to FCS teams that have 65 going to play an FBS team that has 85. It's when you look at the numbers and you break them down, that's exactly what it is. Now, I'm not saying that you can't overcome that, but the odds aren't great. I think we had a pretty good shot in 17. You know, we didn't beat West Florida, but I think, and their coach said to me after the game, if we played 5 times, I don't know who would win 3 of the games. And they were fully funded, but they only had football. That was their 3rd year playing football, so that was a little different.
Yes.
You know, that's just the way it is. Those are the numbers.
Thanks, Coach. Last one, Jack. Your name?
Dave Larco from Indiana. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Jack, Coach. Being a retired meteorologist, I have to ask about the wind. And I know it was
could have used you maybe to get something changed, but go ahead.
But did you anticipate really how much the wind was going to be a factor ahead of time, or just sort of play it by ear as you went along?
No,
more runs instead of pass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know if you guys ever see me out there in pregame warm-up picking up stuff from the carpet because it's not grass anymore and checking the wind, and the wind is very tricky at Miller Stadium. And if it's going to be a strong wind, it's going to blow towards the Eberly building, okay? And that wind Saturday was as strong as I think we've ever had in all my years here at IUP. And it just stayed constant. There's been other games where it would shift, oh, wow, it's not even blowing right now. Or I mean, it was so bad in pregame warm-up that I had turned away from our team and was actually looking at Shepherd, and I really wasn't paying. I mean, we already played them 3 weeks ago. What are they going to show me that I haven't already seen? And I was standing that way because the wind was hitting me right in the face when I was looking at our team. Our team could have left and went into the locker room. I wouldn't even known it because I was turned the other way. And I told Ernie at Shepherd, I go, I'm not really watching you guys because I'm just tired of getting hit in the face with this wind. We played you 3 weeks ago. You're not going to show me anything I haven't seen anyway. But, no, I'm very aware of it, and it's a 6 1, half dozen the other. When you win the toss, you take the win because you want to get off to a good start in the first quarter. And I knew when we got out of that first quarter, I knew the wind was going to be a factor, and it was only 7-7. Well, here's the best way to explain it. When we had the wind, we scored 13 and they scored 13. When they had the wind, they scored 35 and we didn't score any. Now, there's more to it than the wind, but you got to run the ball. If you're not running the ball and they're stopping the run and you're going in, but the problem is when you get stopped punting it. Like, it's hard to punt the ball. I mean, our punters had a great year. He had a 5-yard punt, a 12-yard punt, and a 19-yard punt going into the wind. We actually had to change the way we punted to get more on it. We had to move him in rugby style because standing in the pocket, he had no momentum. His first punt went straight up. And it reminded me when we played at Grand Valley that one year when they beat us and they went on to win the national championship. Brian Kelly was the coach. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that snow and wind. And
I remember that well.
Like 60 mile an hour. That one was the worst ever.
Yeah.
We actually punted a ball in that game. We lost the toss. They took the ball. They took the wind. They kicked off to us. We went 3-and-out. We literally punted the ball, went backwards. And we were down 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, and we got blown out. 62-14, I think, the final. Now, they won the national championship. They had 2 guys get drafted from that team. I mean, that was probably, in all my years coaching here, that was probably the best team we ever played.
That Grand Valley team?
That Grand Valley team, yes. Because we were a good team, too. We beat Saginaw the week before, who was obviously in Grand Valley's league and had given them a pretty good game that year. But we didn't have a chance. We were down 21-0, 8 minutes into the game. We couldn't make a first down. We couldn't throw the ball, and we couldn't punt the ball.
Yeah.
And so
I'm still surprised that Grand Valley's Division II.
Well, I think they want to stay Division II. I mean, they had like 15,000 at their game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen their new facilities, but it's like like nothing you've ever seen before.
One of the facilities that I saw that's been upgraded was the Colorado School of Mines that's playing Shepherd.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive, too. It really is, yeah. Well, listen, we're going to talk more with Hawk Talk. Interesting. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it being here today and throughout the year. Coach Tortorella with us. We'll be back from the beautiful Hilton Garden Inn. We'll take time out on U92radio.com and also on the U92 Facebook page.
Show your IUP spirit and get your hawk on with help from the Co-op Store, your one-stop location for all your IUP swag and apparel. Check out Norm's Bargain area for $25 fleeces and hoodies. Logo tees only $9.99. The Co-op Store is also the alumni headquarters. IUP is always in your heart, so put something on your front and back that shows that alumni spirit. IUP logoed water bottles, coffee mugs, spirit items for your dorm or man cave. And don't forget the Oak Grove collection. Get your hawk on at the Co-op Store or find them online at IUPstore.com.
At IRMC, we have all of the necessary pieces in place to perform complex operations, including highly skilled and specially trained surgeons, their support team of experts, and advanced technology like the Da Vinci robotic surgical system. As a result, patients spend less time in the hospital, recover faster, and get treated close to home. So there's no reason to puzzle over where you should get your surgical care. The answer is right here at IRMC.
We're back with you live from the Hilton Garden Inn. Jack Benedict, Coach Paul Tortorella with us, and we're talking IUP football up to the top of the hour. It's been our pleasure to sit in with the coach here all year long, and that's really been an exciting year, no question about it. 10-2 on the year. People are talking about the portal. The portal is just blowing up today on Division II, Division I. One of the listeners said, explain the portal and the timing when players can enter.
Well, they can enter right now for like a 20-day period, and then they're in it, so you can deal with them for you know, the amount of time you have, and then they have another period right after spring practice where they can get in. And you know, the portal is, you know, we look at it when we need a position, like right now. That's when we deal with, like, we took 3 guys last year and 2 were from Cal. What happens in the portal is everybody gets excited when they see all these Division I guys in the portal. Well, they want to move up. Like a FCS guy thinks he's going to an FBS. And FBS thinks, well, if I'm not playing an FBS, I'll go down to FCS. So really, to be honest, the 3 guys we took from the portal were Division II guys. And I really think at the end of the day, that's where we'll get more out of the portal than in any, you know, because the FCS, FBS guys, they're not getting in the portal to go to Division II. They're getting in it to try to either improve or go down a class in Division I. So, like, I think the hidden gem, and some of the Division II kids that are in there, yeah, they would like to go FCS, you know, 1AA or whatever, and they're probably really good, really good Division II players, but maybe they're just looking for a better situation. And my motto or whatever is, if we don't take them, somebody's going to take them. You know, so like if they're in the portal, that's their decision. I don't have a loyalty to the coach at that school, because the guy's in the portal, he's going somewhere. So they're leaving anyway. But we're going to obviously look in the portal for certain positions, but we're nowhere near like some of these other places. Slippery Rock had like 18 guys from the portal on their team this past year. But that when you do that, then you just got to keep portaling it every year.
That's interesting.
Well, here's a perfect example. Tyler Badgett, which is a special case, went to Shepherd out of high school. He has started 53 games. When you throw COVID in there, he never redshirted. It's 5 years. We've had 5 quarterbacks since Tyler Badgett's been the head coach at Shepherd. This was his 53rd start against us Saturday in 4 years. You know, they've played in the playoffs. They've played a lot of games. They're averaging like 13 games a season. And they have the COVID year in there. We've had Lenny. We had Quentin Maxwell. We had Javon Davis. We had Harry Woodbury. And now we have Mac.
There's your 5.
That started the same time that Badgett started at Shepherd. So, like, you can't continue every year to just go in the portal and then you just get a new team. And I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to coach in Division I, because they got to re-recruit the guys that they've already recruited to keep them. You know, I saw where there's a guy at a good Division I school. You know, they're not top 20, but it's a good school. And the guy's had a great 3-year career there. He's leaving. Like, they developed him, and he's not like he's at, a junior college. He's at a big-time Division I program. It's just they're not a top 20 team. So now what do? Now they got to go into the portal. And, like, high school recruiting is like, like we went and signed 31 high school kids last year, and I bet you there were 10 of them that we would have really not struggled, but would have been in a battle to get if other people were recruiting high school kids. And we went that route, and we just brought in 3 portal guys, and 2 we brought in second like in the fall. They weren't even with us the second semester. Mm-hmm. So everybody we signed on the signing date last year, other than the quarterback who came second semester from a Division II school, were high school kids.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you this. If you have a player that puts his name in the portal and he gets no interest, do you bring him back? Are you required to bring him back?
No, you're not required. It's kind of your decision. I'm not. If a guy wants to go in the portal, I don't have a problem with it. But to me, then that's his decision, and we're going to go our way, and he can go his way. And I don't have anything against it if that's what they want to do. But I'm not going to say, okay, go in the portal, see what happens, and then we'll bring you back if you don't find anything. Like, we're not going to do that. So if you go in the portal, you got to make a decision. Like, I don't want you to play the portal and say, well, I'll go back to IUP. I'm doing really well there. I didn't get a great offer. We're not going to do that. Like, if you want to get in the portal, go ahead and get in the portal, and we'll go on our way. But you better make sure that that's what you want, because we're not taking you back.
I got it. Yep, you either want to be here or you don't.
Right.
One way or the other. I was looking at the players that you had mentioned and where you need to shore up at the different positions. And you really brought in a lot of good players from last year. Mm-hmm. One of on the offensive line, where you're going to need some people. You mentioned about Davis and Robinson and Petropola are going to be gone. At least a little bit of experience with your freshman offensive linemen. They got a chance in a few of those games. A couple of those guys, do you think they'll step up and they'll fit in?
Well, they're going to have to right now. We got Leighton and Santiago, who are a little bit older. They're sophomores. We've got a couple freshmen that are true freshmen, a couple freshmen that are redshirt freshmen, Aiden Marshall, some guys, that are redshirt freshmen. So we've had it really good here the last 7 or 8 years in regards to offensive line. At least since I've been the head coach since 2017, we've had as good an offensive line as anybody in Division II football in my whole time here as a head coach. So we're going to have some new guys, and it's going to take some time, and we're going to have to redevelop it and retrain it and rebuild it, because like we had a lot of guys down in the dauber because we're losing some good offensive linemen. We're losing. Well, that's what happens. They can't play forever, and we just got to pick up the pieces. And there were other positions where we were down 2 years ago or last year that we've kind of redeveloped, especially in the secondary. So hopefully what we've done with the secondary, we can do with the offensive line and defensive line. We went the high school route, and we took Taylor as a transfer. He was the only older guy. But these freshmen were now playing as sophomores, and they played all year for us. And I feel good about the secondary. I mean, they're getting better, and they'll be better even next year. So if we go, looking in the portal, it'll probably be at some other positions, obviously.
I'm going to go to the defensive line. Got a young man named Logan Danielson.
Right.
Bill Freilich winner, coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. He's been here since 2019. He's been with you all year as a redshirt. He has not seen a game How about his situation?
Well, once he's, he had to sit a year because he was ineligible. So he's got to, he'll be eligible in the spring.
And he'll have 4.
He'll have 4 years, yes. So hopefully, he's one of those guys that will help us in that defensive line, because we did lose 4 guys that played defensive line.
What about Dylan Grubbs? There's a situation with him.
Well, he's graduated. Potentially he could come back in the fall because he doesn't have any more full-time semesters as a grad student. He could come back in the fall. He's rehabbing his knee, so that would be a guy that could come back in the fall. It's like McLean DeJua. he has to go part-time. He's in grad school, so he's probably just going to take the semester off and be back in the fall.
He will come back?
Yes, he's back for his final season, but he can't stay here in the spring and then play in the fall because he'll run out of semesters.
No, that's a plus, though.
Oh, yeah, he's a good player, and Comedy's a good player, and, you know, we got to get Chad Layton going, and Santiago, and Marshall, and, you know, look in the portal for some older guys. So we'll just have to, I mean, they're not going to stop scheduling the games because we're looking for offensive linemen.
I would think that players, because of the success of the IUP program, they're going to contact you.
Yeah,
too,
I mean,
but
there's so many. That portal is. There was a number last week. I don't know this like as fact, but it was like there was the last 2 years. There's been over 5,000 kids in the portal, and only 2,000 of them find a spot. So that means 60% didn't get anything.
Didn't get anything. Yeah. Interesting. All right, we're back with the final segment coming up, and we'll see what else we'll talk about here with IUP football. We've been doing it all year. We thank the wonderful folks here at the Hilton Garden Inn. Back in a moment, Hawk Talk on U92Radio.com and the U92 Facebook page.
C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen and the Hilton Garden Inn is this area's best-kept secret. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hour, or for their post-game specials. Make your reservations for C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn at chfields.com. The Hilton Garden Inn is the preferred hotel of IUP Athletics. Located next to Miller Stadium and the KCAC, the Hilton Garden Inn is Indiana's newest and best hotel. Make your reservations today at hiltongardeninn.com.
Come join us in celebrating our grandfather Red Dowd's induction into the Indiana County Business Hall of Fame.
To celebrate, we can't think of anything better than to combine two of Dowd's most popular sales.
To honor his legacy and celebrate our 72nd anniversary, we're offering up to 72% off selected floor sample clearance items. Plus, save on all custom orders with every other item up to 1/2 off.
Come celebrate with us, Dowd's of Plumville and Dowd's of Greensburg.
Welcome back to Hawk Talk. This is our final segment for our final show of this year with Coach Paul Tortorella. Coach, first of all, I want to mention a couple of guys, and not slighting anybody else that's been on the team, but I got to mention Dwayne Brown and Max Sexton because of what they've done this year, getting in the record book. And when you look back over IUP's great tradition, Dwayne, with 74 receptions, is second all-time. He is tied with Hall of Famer Len Pesatini, and I remember Len Pesatini with Lynn Eber back when, and he was inducted a few years into the Hall of Fame. All other categories, he's second in yardage in the season, career receptions 176, he is second there. TDs in the season, he had 18. He's 18 to Jai Hill's 20. So he's put his name in the record book, and of course he's been a receiver for 3 years.
Right, he was a running back the first year. Yeah,
and then you had him as a punt returner. So what a great career, and to see him, I just think back in the game when he came off the field and said, you know, we've watched one of the great players here at IUP perform in the last 4 or 5 years overall. So that's Dwayne. For Mac, who came in and from a good program, a very good program in Pitt State, threw 33 touchdown passes this year. That's third all-time. And his yardage, which is just under 3,000, 2,907, and that's third all-time. So I would say he had a pretty good year coming in here and settled in. So, you know, there are many guys that these two guys credit on the team to come out with a 10-2 record.
Right.
Just needed to mention them. Go to next year. And one of the questions, and I had it written here too, we mentioned about, you know, Mark had mentioned about the crowd, this and that and whatever. Well, the fans will have a great opportunity next year because the first 3 games are at home, right?
Right, yeah.
Ashland, East Stroud, Ship.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's early in the year. This should You know?
Well, weather should be good. I hope.
Yeah. Well, we can call on Dave to tell him about the weather. Forget about
we got a little bit of time for that, Dave.
You know, the thing was when people say, well, you played in the rain, both teams play in the rain, both teams the wind, but the wind situation is different, just as you described it.
Well, it affects the kicking game. Like the rain, it's more, catching the ball. It doesn't affect throwing it that much. It affects catching the ball and holding on to the ball, not fumbling, et cetera, et cetera. The wind factors in everything, throwing the ball, punting the ball. Like at one point, we were going to try a 50-yard field goal if we were going towards Eberly.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't going to try a field goal over 30 yards going the other way. So when we were on the, I think, 32, it would have been a 49-yard field goal into the wind. It wouldn't even been close. So we went for it on 4th and 12 because we were punting into the wind. Heck, it might not have went 5 yards at that point the way the wind was blowing. Mm-hmm. But even if you do get a good punt off and it goes into the end zone, they get the ball in the 20, so you only gain 12 yards anyway. We thought we had a better chance going for it on 4th down. So, they still had the length of the field to go, and we stopped them. They scored their next 2 touchdowns when they got the ball on our side of the 50 after the one bad punt, and then in the second half, the 2 turnovers.
One of the questions that one of the fans had was, going back to the game, would you like to have used the tight end more in passing situations?
Yeah.
But I know you'd like to have done a lot more.
Yeah, well, we have in the past couple weeks. I think when Dwayne went down, that forced us to do that. We hit, I think we hit 3 misdirection passes. We hit Suman once. We hit Grant Smith once. We hit Laney once. The issue was, for those plays to work, you got to get your run game going and hold the linebackers with the play fake and the misdirection. So if your run game's going, which it was going early, we had the misdirection. When we were struggling to run the ball, we were getting behind the chains, and if you're not running the ball, play action and the misdirection game's not that good. So it kind of goes hand in hand with your run game.
Mark, you have a question?
Yes, we had a text come in.
Okay.
It was simply, can you talk about the leadership on this year's team and how satisfied you might have been with it?
I said in the locker room after the game, since I've been the head coach, it was our best. We have a leadership council, and it was the best leaders. And we've had good ones, but this one was by far the best leadership council we ever had, and it was mostly all seniors, guys that have been in the program 5 or 6 years. And I mentioned today, I wrote down a couple things because I wanted to make sure that our seniors understood this. If they were in the program for the 5 seasons where I've been the head coach, they were part of 40, whether they redshirted or not, or they played those years, they were part of 48 wins. This year they won the PSAC West. They won the PSAC overall conference championship. We were 3-1 against teams in the top 10. We played Slippery Rock. I think they were 5th in the country, and we beat them. We played Ashland. I think they were 9th in the country. We beat them. We played Shepherd twice, and they're in the top 5 both times, and we beat them once and lost them twice. So we played 4 games against top 10 teams, and we went 3-1. And again, I go back to losing again, and that did us a favor. That we kind of reprocessed after that loss, and got humbled a little bit, and said we can't get away with not playing our A game, and I don't know if we beat Shepherd the first time if we beat Gannon, and I think we probably did Shepherd a favor by beating them because they came in a totally different team this time than the first time we played them.
Talk about the end of the season here, and you've talked with your players. What's in your postseason procedure with the players, and now you look to next year when you meet with them?
The first thing is when you play this late in the year, they're starting their finals tomorrow. In 17, we played West Florida the week of finals. So when we were done with that game, they went home. We had to talk to them over the phone, because when the game was over, they all went home the next day because their finals were finished. Well, now we played Saturday, obviously, and finals start tomorrow. So we try to meet with each guy by position, and really more academically than anything. We talk a little bit about the season, but there's time for that. right now we want them to concentrate on, their academics, their finals, getting through the semester, getting away from football, going home, enjoying their time at home. After the holidays in January, we'll pick it back up, and obviously when they come back for second semester, we'll start our off-season weight program that's been tremendous with our new strength coach, and then get into spring practice, obviously, later in the spring. But right now, it's mainly let's get through our academics and our finals and do as well. And we've got I want to say 9 guys graduating either from undergrad or grad school this Saturday. So those guys are going to be graduating and moving on and leaving the university. So we want to make sure everything's ready to go and they're all set.
I was going to bring it up about your assistant coaches, and I got a thing here too that as a text, could you talk about behind-the-scenes contributors like Declan Peer and some of these people?
Well, it was like when everybody says, congratulations, Coach of the Year. Like, that doesn't happen without a great staff. Whether they're full-time, whether they're part-time, whether they're student coaches, they all do a great job. They all work hard. I trust them. They're very resourceful. I don't have to tell them what to do. I don't have to check on them. There's not a guy on our staff that didn't do a great job this year. And they, not only coaching players, but mentoring them in the meetings, off the field. We had very little issues, off the field issues. And I think a big part of that is how our coaches treat their players, at their position, in general, offense, defense, the whole team, special teams. But our position coaches had a good bond with their players and a good trust factor, and we had minimal issues, outside of football. Mm-hmm. And that's just as important. That's those intangibles that I always talk about, that is the difference in winning close games and losing close games. Like, that's the other thing. We had a great record in one-score games. I think we were 5-1 in one-score games. So that's the difference, winning and losing close games are those other intangibles, and the coaches are a big part of that.
One other guy who's been a coach, a volunteer, and has helped you and has dealt with some health issues this year is Dick Mock.
Right.
And Dick has had great association with many people in the IUP program.
Right.
Tom Rogish, Chris Valerios,
right.
On and on and on. So these are all people that you're talking about.
Yeah, they just all, give what they can to the program in regards to their work and the time they spend in the program, and watching film on the side and kind of being like analysts and things that, position coach doesn't have time for, because he's getting guys ready to play and meeting with them, where we have some guys that are just doing the film breakdown and doing the film evaluation of our opponents and so forth, and our own self-scout of how we're doing. As that was, which was good about the off week before the playoffs started. We had time to self-scout how, what's working for us, what isn't working for us, et cetera, because you don't really have time during the season to do that.
Yeah. Well, I know guys like John Patina, Gene Beachigo.
Yeah, I mean, we've had them over the years that just want to help the program.
Yeah, and some of them are retired from other jobs,
right,
and some have some other real jobs too. Coach, thanks for your time, for your cooperation, and with your players and everybody involved. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun doing this. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have, and thank you for all you do. You're a great ambassador for not only the university and the athletic department, but for our football program. I mean, you're out there just about every day at practice, and you do a great job. The players, I was talking about Terry Totten, who just retired, and one of my statements was, I have never heard a guy say a bad thing about him, and I think I can say that about you. I've never heard bad anybody say anything negative about you, and you're a big part of our program. You really are.
I appreciate that. And, I mentioned him on the air, and I mentioned Dave Kiefer, who won an Inspiration Award back in the 90s with IUP. He's retiring at Greensburg. And how about Dante Green? We've talked about him.
Well, yeah, he's playing in the state championship
State championship in Cumberland Valley.
Yep.
Yeah, undefeated, so we wish them well.
Right.
Coach, thank you.
Appreciate it, Jack.
I want to thank the wonderful people here at the Hilton Garden Inn. Angela and company and the staff have just been absolutely fabulous. So we hope you enjoyed all of this. It's on to next season, all right? And for our guys that behind the scenes, like Mr. John Smathers over here, who's kept us going, and for Mark and for Carrie and Danielle Pisarczyk, our producer back at Renda Broadcasting, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. Hey, everybody, have a Major League night. We'll see you.
You've been listening to IUP First Time.
Oh, my timing was pretty good there, Danielle.